There is a space where you are all you need, where you are all you want. All there is here. Welcome to the Source Connection, conversations about who we truly are, the possibilities of creation and the new earth we are birthing, with your hosts, Tarah Long and Liz B.
Welcome, everyone, to one more episode of The Source Connection. Some people call me Liz B. I'm here with my co-host, who some people call Tarah Long. And let's take a moment to ground ourselves right now. Just finding a comfortable position to sit or lie down, whatever it's available to you. And instead of trying to fix something or trying to orchestrate something, let's just get curious. What am I feeling today? What am I thinking? What am I participating in energetically, emotionally? We're just going to take inventory here as we breathe long and deep. And as you breathe long and deep, I want you to activate the 3 chambers of the lungs. As you inhale, really expand the abdominal area, then the chest and the clavicular. And as you exhale, you do the opposite as the prana comes out. So really feel the expansion of your physical body. Just really open and create space as you inhale, and let it go as you exhale and just naturally contract. And as you get curious, you can ask yourself why. Whatever you're feeling or thinking, you can just continue the exploration of, why am I feeling this? Or why am I thinking that? Now I'd like for you to start letting go of the whys. And imagine in your mind's eyes that there's a big ball of golden light on top of your head. Create a vivid image. And on your next inhale, see that light start to pour into you, and you have the center channel, and it comes down and starts to expand up as well towards the heavens, the skies. And it continues to come down on this central channel. With each inhale and exhale, just moving more freely and coming down, coming out of your perineum area and just rooting towards the center of the earth. And keep that image alive. With the inhale, it expands upward and downwardly. And with each exhale, it starts to also expand in you sideways. So it starts to take on all the areas of your physical body. And as it grows to the skies and to the center of the earth with the inhale, expand with the exhale to where it moves outwardly from your physical body space into your energetic field and just continues to expand. And you can grow this light as big and wide as you like, as you feel comfortable with. And in this feeling of expansion and connectivity, we're going to bring the focus of the light starting at the perineum. And on your inhale, you're going to bring it up your back, top of your head. And as you exhale, it comes down the front, and then it reconnects to that area in the perineum and just keeps inhaling up the back, exhaling down the front. Your microcosmic orbit. Still in connection with the skies in the center of the earth, with your own energetic expansion throughout the megaverses. And adding the microcosmic orbit to it. And let's do one more cycle. And as you exhale, focus on that golden light in your perineum area and take a deep inhale and bring it behind your belly button. Suspend the breath here. And side out. And just take a moment to integrate this expansion and this awareness. And then when you're ready, move, open your eyes, drink some water, tea, whatever you feel like you need to just come back into the space here with us. Mm.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah. You bet.
I love the golden ball. Ever since I can remember, that's what source has always been to me, is golden, like a golden liquid light. Like that's just always what has ever come to me before, and so, in this meditation, I don't even have time for it to go do any of the, it's just an immediate, like, I'm in it. And then it's just, then it just expands to the whole everything.
Yeah.
And it feels so good to like swimming in that like golden liquid light. It's just so luxurious. Yeah. So good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because when you say gold and I say gold, right? I think about the mineral sometimes and how for the longest time I did not feel attracted to gold. The jewelry or whatever thing.
Yeah.
And a few years ago I was like, I can only wear gold. So all my silver stuff has been retired for the time being.
It's so funny. I had that same exact transition of like never really being attracted to gold as a younger person or just in my life. And then suddenly it was like, that's it. I don't want to wear any of my, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And then in Chinese medicine, they used to use gold and silver needles a lot for different points. And so the silver is always to reduce something, like if there's an excess to help reduce, whereas gold tonifies or nourishes if there's a deficiency.
Like so it amplifies?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Like a tonification versus,
calming it down or bringing it down or whatever.
Yeah, it brings silver. It expands it, right? Makes it fuller, more. Yeah.
It's interesting to just correlate to even maybe the timeline of that transition for us and how there was a moment that it was like, oh, now I need to tonify or amplify the signal, whatever, the broadcast, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Through these things.
Yeah.
And before there was more of a suppression.
Right.
Or like a
hiding even, right?
Right.
And now it's like, I ain't hiding no more, nothing.
Nothing to hide here.
Nothing to hide. We're coming out. Yeah. Great.
Before we started recording, I was telling you that something that has been coming up for me, and maybe we could talk about today, is the fact that the universe is a self-organizing organism.
Yeah. So rich, that right there.
Yeah. What does that mean? And what does that feel, right?
What does it look like? How do we fit in to that?
Especially when we've been conditioned to believe that we need all this systems and programs to make it organized,
to control it.
Yes. Yes.
And it's very reflective of, I mean, I work with clients a lot, and in almost every single case, there is a lot of conditioned control, right? For most people. I mean, we have, and it just creates so much havoc in our systems that we are responsible for controlling everything in our lives. It's so exhausting. And it doesn't mean it's different than responsibility, but the manipulation of it, right? The manipulating it and making it be something that our minds think it should be.
And let's also tap into the word responsibility, is the ability to respond, right? The ability to reconnect with your own value system, with your own set of guidelines, to be able to respond a certain way with whatever happens. I think that because, again, of how things have been so orchestrated in society in a way that most of us forget that we don't have to control everything, that there is an order to things. And when you start tapping into that and allowing, it makes it for a much more relaxing experience of life. It doesn't mean that you don't have stresses or that everything, just happens the way you want. It's not that, but it's an yielding for something to emerge and something to kind of guide us, I believe.
And then from a place of allowing, then we can respond versus like react or try to control something. Then we can just go, oh, okay. There's so many subtle levels here, so many subtle, and we're just exploring this together today. And of course, whatever resonates with you, dear listener, take what that does take what does resonate where you need it, because everybody's going to need something different from this conversation. But I like that, that we're bringing up like control versus responsibility, because I think people fear responsibility, right? They think, oh, that means I got to be accountable. Someone's gonna, it's just, but control is something so innate, or that we're taught, like you must figure it out yourself, everything versus like, what is the mystery beyond us that is just, that's here for us, that actually holds us up as we walk through the world. Also, that's another layer of it.
Right. Then you think about the systems, because as you were saying, like, sometimes people fear responsibility. Also, if we look back at how most people, not to say all, but most people are raised in the traditional kind of way of being. From a very young age, you go to an institution that starts to strip you from your own ability to even connect with yourself, to where you have potty breaks. Like, you don't get to decide when you go.
That's right.
We tell you when you go.
Yeah.
Right? There's an authoritative,
like even over figure, your body. Yep.
There's an authoritative figure that tells you what things are and how the world operates. And from a very young age, you start to look out and think that somebody else holds the key for whatever the mystery is of life, right? How should I behave? Oh, wait. How should I eat? What should I eat? There's always something telling you how you should do those things. And also this idea that somehow these people, that being our parents or our teachers or, coaches, whatever thing in that growing up, know more or know better. And then there's a complete disconnection, right? Because you start to just disconnect to be able to kind of walk in the world. And not everybody had a parent who said, I'm sorry, I don't know. Let's figure this out. There's a lot of, because I said so. Well, that's what I, and then
why? Just because I said.
Just because I said so.
Because I'm the adult.
Right.
the child. It's like, wow. Yeah. So I want to tell a quick little story that will highlight that. I was in first grade and we had potty breaks, right? You potty, like whatever, this time. Okay. And then if you have to go any other time than that, sorry, you're not going to get to go. Right. Well, you're a little kid. Your bladder is not, it's not like and as an adult now where we can hold it or we can, right. You're still
learning that.
You're still learning how to do that. Your body is still trying to figure out how to do that. Anyway, so I was how old are we in first grade? I guess we're like six or something. Yeah. Anyway, so I remember I had my little jean skirt on and whatever. And it was reading time. And my teacher, Mrs. Miller, she was a hard ass. I mean, she did not take shit from anything or anyone. And her kids were all like, it's like soldiers, right? And I really had to pee. And it was right after, she was doing reading group and we were all supposed to be working. And so I put my hand up because you had to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. And I kept it up. Oh, my hand was getting sore. I switched arms. I kept putting, probably 5 minutes of and she wouldn't look at me. She would not, because we were already supposed to have gone before reading group. So what did I do? I sat there and I peed my pants because I had to go so bad. And then of course I got in trouble for doing that.
Of course.
And then my mom was called and she had to come and bring me another skirt. And this boy that I liked was sitting next to me. His name was Rob. I can still see him today. And he was like, what happened? What happened? And I was so embarrassed. I mean, it was just, anyway, I say all this to say, it's like that conditioning right there. You're in trouble. You did something wrong. You can't trust your body. You can't even trust your teacher because your teacher doesn't have your back. Your teacher has the back of the rules that she has set out. Right. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I will never forget that. And then I don't think I ever peed my pants again because I was so terrified. Oh man.
Wow. The layers of shame, of disconnect, of conditioning, of punishment. So just that, if we just take that instance and we think about the fact that at that point right there, at some level, there was a message that you couldn't trust your body.
Yeah.
Right? Either we like that message or not.
Yeah.
I can't trust it. It got me in trouble.
I had to pee and I peed and then.
And that's just one little instance in the lifetime of us growing up in that system that just continues to just detach us from ourselves, right? And it just continues to pull us.
Yeah.
Like there's almost, I don't know a way to say it, but it's almost
pulls us away from ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. It pulls us away. And then it's almost like instead of them being connected and like, okay, I can trust myself. I can trust the people who are supposed to be watching after me because they care about me.
Yes.
Then it's like, well, fuck you. Like you don't give it. You obviously do. It's even if I consciously
there's so many
know that subconsciously, it's like, and then there's even more of an opportunity to start acting out because it's like, well, who cares? I didn't. I was always a really good, quote, I'm using air quotes, good girl, because I had the fear of all kinds of things in me when I was a kid, including my dad and, God and, all these things. But really the lesson there was fear. The lesson was do what you're told. Fear.
No matter what it costs.
No matter how you feel about it, no matter what your body says or your intuition, doesn't matter. Do what you're told. And you can't trust the people who are watching after you.
Right. Yeah.
So that starts so young. So young.
And also when one is able to look at the history of compulsory schooling and where it came from. I highly recommend, and we'll link this up.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with John Taylor Gatto, he's an author and he talks about the history of schooling, and he's a big advocate for unschooling, homeschooling.
Yes.
And he historically backs it up.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself.
Right.
But as we talk about our own realizations about the systems, we also start to realize that we always have choice.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you're told you don't have choice. We see that playing out with the abortion thing right now. And it's just really, let me find the right word, really disheartening to see people begging their slave masters for the authority over their bodies.
Yes.
And to think that a body of government has any authority in telling you what you do or not.
Yeah.
And it's just really fascinating to witness that at some construct, we're still at that level that people think that they need to ask permission.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, that is the thing that struck me, I think, the most, with this latest distraction, right?
Totally.
The Roe v. Wade, it's like, whatever one's opinion is on it, we don't need to get into that, or we can, whatever. But it's that some guy in a robe sitting on a thing can be like, you can and can't. Whoa, like that's how far gone most of society really is, sadly, right? It's like, well, what are the other possibilities here? If I really want to choose that or feel like I need that, what else is possible? Really, it's endless. When we start, and we're not just looking to one system anyway, like the Western medical system. That's just one system. That's one way that I get. We've been conditioned to believe it's the only way, but it surely is not.
When you talk about the guy with the robe, listen, kids, that's just a costume. Somebody putting a costume on does not give them any authority or jurisdiction over you, as long as you know that. Because the thing is, most people don't know that. And they choose to be in ignorance, which is to ignore the fact that you are a supreme being. You have your own God-given rights. And somebody putting a costume on, whatever that costume is, it's a role.
Yeah. Whether, no matter how much education, what title they have, it is a man or a woman playing XY, playing a judge. It is a man or a woman playing a cop, whatever.
And so when you understand society at that level, it's like a veil is lifted, and then you ask, okay, what's behind this veil, and who am I? So there's different I think nuances to this. Who am I? Because we can talk about who am I in the spiritual sense of this infinite being, of this infinite energetic imprint, right? Energy never gets destroyed, it gets transformed. And so there's also the question of who am I in this societal construct?
Yeah.
And who am I, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that the broadcast here in the signal is for us to remember that we can always go a deeper layer into everything that we're looking. And when we start stripping the costumes, and we start stripping the titles, and we start stripping all these things that have been put on by these ideas, you get to question everything. Is that true? Is that right? Should that be like that? Are there other ways that we can do that? And so, as you said, the possibilities are endless, and life really becomes so rich. It's rich, and we just get to find that richness, right? Because we're just taking away all of the distractions, all of the foolishness that we've been conditioned to. And there's a richness is the word that keeps coming back to it. There's a depth that's really yummy and exciting to explore.
That I just had the image of, or the visualization of like the richness of going off the board. And what I mean is like, you know, if you could say that the systems have been created to be like a board game, right? And we're all, no, I got to do this. And these are the rules. And then you're like, man, I don't even need to be on this board anymore. Like, I'm out of here, you know, screw Monopoly or whatever it is you think you're playing. Like, you're not going to take all my houses and all my money because you rolled the dice, you know? And so just being off board is like, oh, because then everything's unknown again. It's not just everything that you're told, and you know, it has to be a certain way. And the richness comes from, for me, that excitement of like, ooh, that because everything is possible. Well, what is possible for me right now? Like, what feels good? What feels, and really, and I say this all the time, and I really do believe it, that you can't screw it up. I just don't think you can screw it up. I mean, you could maybe take a turn. You're like, no, that doesn't feel aligned, but that's meant. And then you pivot, you do something else, right? People also, along with the systems and structures that have been created for us to, you know, get in the board game with, it's also the idea that it's permanent, right? That I make a choice and that's it. And I can't ever change my mind, or even if I'm 65 years old and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, you can. Yeah. If you are alive and breathing, you have a choice. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You have the authority to make your own choice. And here's the thing. It's not always easy. Easy and right are many times don't fall in the same category, but that's okay. You know, because that's what
the richness is.
That's the richness part. Yes.
The richness of wonder.
Yes.
In becoming curious and becoming childlike again, and just there's an allowance. Yeah. That just, well, so what? Now what? If I don't do that, what?
Yeah.
And I think some of us come with a little bit more of that, like, that spark of just like, okay, okay, let's see.
Yeah.
And when I think we really look in a more simplistic way, you know, of just when I say, well, I believe the universe is a self-organizing organism, and people say, well, okay, but we need rules, and we need government, and we need, you know, authority figures, and we need this and we that. And even that, do we really? Or have we been conditioned to believe that we don't know how to self-organize, and we need this external, you know, mommy and daddy to tell us everything? So I think that's also part of the maturing in the process of becoming emotionally rich, and just like, oh, okay. And then to look at the simplicity of do no harm.
Yes.
Just absolutely. Do no harm, and do to others what you would like done to you. And so it makes things so much more simple.
It's just so simple. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This idea that, you know, when people say that, that's the argument a lot of like, well, we don't really, you know, we don't need government. We don't need these large governing systems to tell everybody what to do. Well, if we didn't have that, people would just be wild banshees. They'd just go looting the stores. There'd be speeding like maniac, you know, like all the, like, people really think the worst of people because they think that we'd just be in mayhem, like immediately. Right. Was it, I don't know who posted some study about speeding where they took,
I've seen that too.
Yeah. Like there was no speed limit in a certain some place in the world. I don't know if it was an experiment or they just never had speed limits there, but the study showed that nobody was dangerous and went too fast or too slow or whatever. People self-regulated, and we do have common sense, folks. We know if we're going too fast or you know, like metaphorically and, you know, literally. Mm-hmm. So it's this self-trust. And of course you're going to have the yahoos that are going to do the things, but hey, they do it now. These systems and rules and structures don't keep the people who, you know, do those things from doing those things for the most part.
Yeah. There's the preservating instinct when you talk about the speeding and all of that. Now, it is also important to touch on that the systems, when we think about the people who are, it's like people talk about laws for like gun laws and all of that, right? I come from a third world country. Do you think that crooks and thieves like follow the rules and the laws? Right. No.
Yeah. No.
Okay, take the fantasy out of your head and just look at things like in a very realistic, kind of like matter of fact way. They don't. And so I think that also with that kind of responsibility, we need also self-education. And what do I mean by that? It's getting curious about yourself. It's finding you to be the most exciting book for you to read throughout your life. Why do I do this? Why do I operate like this? What are the triggers? How was I raised that maybe influenced and impacted my behavior? And so, again, it's nothing outside of yourself that's going to dictate how you relate with yourself unless you allow for it, which is totally, what we see going on. And getting curious about yourself and like exploring all of these avenues that we have and pathways of how we operate and why do we get triggered by certain things and all that, and learning yourself to then learn how to self-regulate, to learn to forgive yourself, to learn to move through the trauma, to, connect with people who are on that path. Think about, I oftentimes have said this, especially when everyone was looting out in 2020 and the riots and just all of that. And I'd say, can you imagine what it would be like if everyone gathered that energy that they were feeling at that moment and they all went home and meditated? Mm-hmm. How do I use this momentum for my own expansion, right? Instead of thinking that I need to do something. But then it's such a conversation of like, layers and layers of trauma conditioning, belief systems, and I get it's not as like matter of fact, but just thinking about the possibilities of that, right? To think, okay, the only way, and then we go back to Peterson's thing, clean your own room. I mean, this is your room, this is your being. How do you learn how to navigate where you're not getting triggered by everything that's said, that you're not responding from your wounds? Yeah. And so all of that process. And then if we could, slowly person by person, so it's not like this big thing where, somebody does something and, oh my God, now it's everyone taking the responsibility that you have, that I have, that everyone has, and really turning inwardly to then be able to process all that and then come to society, come to others, come to the systems, whatever they are, and have that kind of self-authority, have that kind of self-preservation instinct to where when you want to preserve your own life, you don't want to harm another life. So there is a devaluation of life, right, that we see just everywhere, right? People are just kind of, not really valuing themselves and their gifts and all of that because we haven't been taught how to even know what they are. We've been taught to numb things out and to move away from discomfort and just all of that. Yeah. And so there's so many things, but at the root, I believe that the universe is self-organizing. Mm-hmm. I don't have a reason to doubt that.
Yeah. And I think we've both experienced that time and time again in our own lives. I know I have, where you just completely surrender and let go of all your ideas of how things should be going. And then suddenly it's like, whoa, like I am really held and carried, and not because I'm passive and I'm not doing anything, because surrendering is not a passive activity. It is like the opposite of a passive activity, right? As we know, it's one of the most challenging things for us to do, is just to let go and trust that the mystery of life, universe, God, source really does have our back and really is operating for all of us. Even if something happens that we might think is bad or, didn't go the way we want. I bet if we all looked back on those things, we could go, oh, but then this happened. And then this, so it's just that trusting, allowing, and imagine if, this is radical. If everybody, we're cleaning our own rooms, we're doing our thing, and we spent a significant amount of time without any input from the outside world, without any knowledge of like what's going on. And we know most of the news is, BS anyway, but we really didn't know. We really didn't go, ooh, what's happening over in yada, 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 and here and there. And with all the mandates and we just completely, which I know I don't look as much at that stuff. But what would that be like if it was just you and your world for what, and all those things, they just weren't happening because you didn't look on a, social media and see it.
I have a little meme I like, and oftentimes is my profile picture, I think in some places, but it's a woman getting out of bed and she's kind of stretching and it goes, oh, I love the feeling of waking up to the universe conspiring in my favor.
That's great. Yeah, that's it.
The baseline, right? Instead of feeling, and I think then we're going to touch into the victimization. Instead of feeling like a victim of your circumstances, what if everything that has happened to you were stepping stones to more awareness, to more presence, to more richness in your life? How do we turn that around? It's perspective, because the circumstance could be the same. What happened is the same, how things took place, how others treated you, whatever that is. But how is that an opportunity? How is that, like a slingshot to growth and all that? And when you talked about surrender, it made me think of my next book that's in the queue for me to read when I'm done with what I'm reading now, which I'm reading a novel that I'm living vicariously through the character.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And then,
tell me about it.
Yeah, it's a romance. It's called It Ends With Us.
Ooh.
And
put that here too.
Then I'm reading about the Enneagram, which is, the kind of like how some people have mapped different kinds of personas in the world and what's your type and what's the richness of that type, right? Beyond the personality, because the personality is just what's on the surface. But what is deep down, which has been a really beautiful self-exploration process. But the book that's on the queue for me to read, it's called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer.
Yeah.
So maybe we can link that up too, because it keeps coming to me like, and I'm like, okay, I hear it. You want to come through. Like I get it, Yeah. And I'm curious because I'm like, what else feels like the past couple of years? It's like a big surrender experiment.
Yeah.
Calling for deeper and deeper trust.
Yeah.
Into that, And again, it's not always comfortable. It's not always pretty.
Oh, goodness, no.
It's not always fun. I know you come here and you see us and we're cute and we're talking and we're all that. But the thing is, I think that we've been conditioned to associate like, oh, if it's hard, it's not good. If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. And some of to find the richness of things sometimes, like if you're going to go on a hike, right? And there's beautiful waterfalls. Sometimes it's hard. Doesn't mean it's always hard. And it doesn't mean it always has to be hard for their richness, but that's just the contrast and part of life.
It could be some moments that are hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the depth, right, of feeling, of knowingness, of being, and all of that, and just brings more of that out. So I think that's also what we start to rethink of these things as like, oh, this is hard, it must be awful or that. And you just recognize, okay, this is really hard right now. Let's do this.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's okay. If you can surrender to without resisting it, because once you start resisting the feeling, the fear, the pain, the whatever, then of course, as we know, it just stays stuck and it gets worse and creates stagnation and all kinds of other things. If we're like, yeah, this is hard, this sucks, this is scary. All right, come on in. Can I have some tea? Can I help you? What can I do for you?
Right. It's the Rumi poem, The Guest House. We've spoken about it here. Each feeling is a visitor, a new delight, right? And we'll link. We'll copy that. We got a lot this
episode. Yeah,
I know a lot of references and things, and grateful for the ones before us and the ones after us that have really set the path of just richness again, right? Yeah. I think the episode's gonna be called Richness something, rich something. I don't know.
It's rich.
when we get to the end, I have a proposed practice for everybody.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about that.
Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Or even I'm just gonna say it right now. So we don't forget.
Say it right now.
So
12:22, perfect timing.
So every day when you wake up, okay, when you start going about your day, find a moment to stop and acknowledge something about your surroundings, about yourself, about something you're witnessing at that moment, whatever it is that makes you feel alive. It could be this morning were my two cats licking each other and just loving on each other. And I just took a moment, and that's the practice. And you just say, how lucky am I that I get to be this rich? And oftentimes people think about rich as in money, but it's richness of life, richness of experiences, richness of depth, richness of perception, richness of interaction, of relating, of knowing, of feeling. Yeah. And so it can be something beautiful that you see, or even it can be something that you're going through that's just deep. How lucky am I that I get to be this rich?
Yeah.
Let's see how life changes for you.
Yeah. Even if it is the pain or something that it can still be so deep and so rich and so whole. Like that thing that you're recognizing as rich. Can you see it as wholeness, part of the wholeness of you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's our invitation.
Take
it as a practice and do it every day. And see how life and perceptions change and how you become more inviting, to everything, because you recognize the richness of it. And so you start resisting less. Yeah. And there's more fluidity and more, flow.
And if there's something in your life, this is just coming now, that you think you can't do or you don't have permission to do, I guess is a better way to say it, explore that. What is it you think you don't have permission to do? And what are the other possibilities there that you're sourcing from inside? That you're going, what else is possible here? Even if every single person in the world says, no, you can't do that. Yeah.
And before we end, the PSA for the day is the systems are obsolete, they are crumbling, and it's exciting.
It is so exciting.
Be scared. It's going to be bumpy for a while, but
it's okay, because we're here together. We have each other. We've got a lot of resources. Liz and I are both resources. Our podcast is a resource. Go on our website, thesourceconnection.us. We're also both mentors for something called COVID Positive News, CPN. You can find that on Telegram. Lots of resources there. Get involved. And what is it you want to create? You're creating. It's being called parallel systems now, but do we need to put the word system on it? I mean, yeah, there could be some systems there, but just what is it? What is it that you just are excited about, even if you have no idea what it would look like?
We're finding new ways. There's no other way but to find new ways.
New ways.
There's no roadmap for it, and we're doing it.
We are the road.
And to end, we've done this. Yes. I don't know if we did this before here, but Tarah brought a song to our Patreon one time, and it was you don't have to know the way knows the way.
The way knows
so there's something bigger trying to emerge. There's something bigger emerging. I will say that.
Yes.
How much do we allow for it? It's up to us. How much we resist it because we're scared, because this is all we know. But when we know something, it's not for the benefit of all. We're coming to a time where there's no more space for it. And so just how it is.
The way, you don't have to know the way. The way knows the way.
Thank you for being here today, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, big love.